It's Tuesday, June 6th, and this is Now on HNN.
They're not safe. We don't want our family members to be swimming in these areas.
Ahead of the summer season, the Surfrider Foundation releases a report that shows consistent high levels of bacteria at multiple Hawaii beaches.
Testing is now being conducted on the Red Hill tanks to ensure there are no leaks before the defueling process.
We know there are casualties, including likely many deaths.
An explosion at a major dam in Ukraine forces thousands to evacuate. I'm Natalie Brandt with the impact and international reaction to the attack.
Plus, a father-daughter duo sets out to walk hundreds of miles, spreading a message of inclusion. Details coming up on This Is Now. Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here on This Is Now. Summer is just around the corner, and the Surfrider Foundation is shedding light on high bacteria levels at multiple Hawaii beaches.
Yeah, it's all in the organization's latest clean water report. Casey Lund has more from Windward Oahu.
Aloha from Honolulu, and this is an area where most people know when we have heavy rains that come down from the Kapolei Mountains through Honolulu Stream, you see brown water out here, and it's pretty easy to tell when not to jump in the water. But the recent data from the Surfrider Foundation's Blue Water Task Force, their Clean Water Report, tells a more serious story. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at some of that data here on the windward side of Oahu, where just 12% of the samples tested last year met Department of Health safety standards, meaning that 88% of the time, the samples tested by the Blue Water Task Force labs found high levels of bacteria. Those levels only dipped below the high bacteria threshold 3 times in the last 12 months, once in April, January, and then last year in 2022 in October. Now, the Surfrider Foundation tested more than 9,000 water samples across the country at 500 sites last year. According to their data, more than 10 trillion gallons of untreated stormwater runoff flow into U.S. waterways each year. Each place has its own unique problems and challenges, but the Surfrider Foundation says one of the biggest contributors here is our high concentration of cesspools upslope that drain into the watershed, empty into streams, and then eventually the ocean.
These are areas that are also very calm, so they're perfect places for children and for our kupuna to be able to recreate in. Of course, these are also very high areas of bacteria, so they're not safe. We don't want our family members to be swimming in these areas. So cesspools and, again, agriculture development being probably your 2 highest contributors.
Lauren Blickley says while there were some legislative wins this past session to accelerate the timeline when it comes to converting cesspools, there's still a lot to do. She says state lawmakers really need to focus on setting aside more funding for the homeowners that are trying to convert their cesspools. Right now, that cost is on an average about $20,000. Let's go over to Kauai. There's 2 sites that were listed as high priority sites for the Surfrider as well. We're talking about Honolulu Beach and Navilivili Stream. Of the testing done in the last 12 months, 80% of the samples at Honolulu were found to have bacterial levels that exceeded state health department standards. Worse at Navilivili Stream, where 100% of the samples tested exceeded those levels. Hawaii Regional Manager says that they're working every year to test even more sites across the islands.
In 2022, our Maui chapter worked with community leaders in the community of Hana, and now the Hana High School students test 4 different sites in the remote community of Hana on Maui. And then we also included sites in Waianae this year.
The Surfrider's Blue Water Task Force does all this testing thanks to an army of volunteers trying to supplement what the State Department of Health is able to do with their limited resources. They're always looking for people. If you'd like to join, learn more about the organization, or read the full 2022 Clean Water Report, you can find that all online at hawaiinewsnow.com. Reporting in Windward, Oahu, I'm Casey Lund. We'll send things back to you for now.
Tightness testing is underway at the tanks at Red Hill. The process ensures that there are no leaks throughout the system. The military has to do it as part of the state's requirements. One thing officials point out is that the tanks will not be pressurized during this testing. We're told that work will last until July 21st. Meanwhile, the Red Hill Fuel Tank Advisory Committee will meet this afternoon. Topics include updates on defueling, closure, and remediation. There's also supposed to be information on the AFFF release and response and on the DoD Red Hill Medical Clinic. People can join in person or online. More details will be posted on our website. Go to the Sunrise tab, then click As Seen on Sunrise. The meeting happens at the Honolulu High School Performing Arts Center from 1 to 5 p.m. We're told the public will get the chance to share comments and ask questions.
President Biden convened his cabinet today for the first time since January, and economic issues were at the top of his agenda. But where does the economy really stand? Karen Kaifa has the latest from Washington.
Well, actually, the debt ceiling battle cast a cloud really over the entire U.S. economy, with dire predictions about what would happen if the U.S. were to default on its debt for the first time. But it wasn't enough to slow the labor market, and a lot of experts are starting to lean away from the idea that a recession is on the way this year.
Good afternoon.
President Joe Biden sitting down with his cabinet Tuesday for the first time since January.
Today, I'm here with my cabinet, continuing to focus on getting the job done for the American people.
With an eye toward Biden's 2024 re-election bid, where the economy will be among the top domestic issues, the White House used the meeting to highlight implementation of the president's infrastructure plan signed into law last summer, an unemployment rate under 4%, and the bipartisan debt ceiling deal Biden signed over the weekend to ensure the U.S. would avoid default.
He believes that we can continue to get things done, and there's a long list of legislative agenda that he wants to see.
With the debt ceiling crisis resolved, more economists are leaning away from the idea that the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes to curb inflation could slow the economy to a halt. Goldman Sachs chief economist told CNBC Tuesday the labor market is cooling in a way where layoffs have been confined to certain sectors.
If you look at the overall layoff numbers, they're still pretty similar to where they were in sort of 2018, 2019, when we had a pretty strong labor market.
And consumers keep spending, though major retailers like Macy's and Costco have reported a shift toward less expensive food, essentials, and services as 2 years of high inflation takes a toll.
The Federal Reserve is scheduled to meet again next week. It's likely that strong May jobs report will factor into their discussions about interest rates along with fresh inflation data. Ashley?
Now, Karen, does the latest data say anything about if consumers can expect to see those prices drop at the grocery store?
Yeah, well, Ashley, they are down from where we were about a year ago when inflation hit a decades high level. So still peeling off of that. But overall, Americans are paying a little bit more money at the grocery store. And while that's up by dollar amount, what they are getting is down by volume. So paying less to get more. So they are still feeling that squeeze. By contrast, in the jobs report last week, we learned that wages are up, so Americans have a little bit more money in their pocket. But still, just because you're making more doesn't mean you want to be paying more for the basics. So it looks like until that inflation comes down a little bit more, consumers still feeling that little tug of war, Ashley.
And Karen, you mentioned that Federal Reserve meeting. What do the analysts expect is going to happen?
Yeah, well, the Federal Reserve is going to have some key pieces of data to look at, relatively new. They'll have the jobs report, which was strong, that came in last week. And also on Tuesday, the first day of their meeting, they will get the freshest inflation data from the federal government. So two major pieces of the economy to consider. Obviously, the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates in an effort to cool down the economy. And the jobs report we just got kind of flew in the face of that. So they're going to take that into consideration, maybe look below the surface. There's been layoffs in some sectors of the economy, but that has meant that these workers, because the labor market is strong, have been able to find other work elsewhere. So is this kind of a soft landing as they pursue their policy? Most economists believe that they will put a pause on the rate hikes to really get a sense of where the economy is and then maybe resume them a little bit later this year, Ashley.
All right, Karen Kaifa joining us this afternoon. We appreciate the time, Karen. Thank you.
Saying gender identity is real, a federal judge temporarily blocked portions of a new Florida law that bans transgender minors from receiving puberty blockers, ruling Tuesday that the state has no rational basis for denying patients treatment, according to Associated Press reporting. Judge Robert Hinkle issued a preliminary injunction saying 3 transgender children can continue receiving treatment. The lawsuit challenges the law Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed shortly before he announced a run for president. Transgender medical treatment for minors is increasingly under attack in many states and has been subject to restrictions or outright bans. but it has been available in the United States for more than a decade and is endorsed by major medical associations.
An explosion at a dam is causing massive flooding in a Russian-controlled territory in Ukraine, and both Russia and Ukraine say this is no accident. Natalie Brand has more.
Rushing floodwaters caused by an explosion at a hydroelectric power plant and dam in southern Ukraine threatened the already battered war zone.
We know there are casualties, including likely many deaths, though these are early reports and we cannot quantify them right now.
Police have begun to evacuate elderly people as thousands live in the water's path, including the key city of Kherson. The dam in Russian-controlled territory holds back a reservoir the size of the Great Salt Lake in Utah. It provides water for drinking and agriculture, as well as cooling reservoirs for the critical Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
Our current assessment is that there is no immediate risk to the safety of the plant.
Some international law experts say it could be a war crime. Ukraine's president puts all of the blame on Russia.
We're still trying to assess what happened here, but the Russians had illegally taken over that dam and the reservoir.
A Western official says a motive for the attack is still being determined, but that it could have been done to make it harder for Ukraine to cross the river during its counteroffensive, as well as to tie up resources dealing with the humanitarian crisis.
The destruction of Nowa Kachowka Dam brings the targeting of civilian infrastructure and civilians in Ukraine to unprecedented new level.
Ukraine is in the opening phases of its long-planned counteroffensive to retake land that Russia has seized and is currently occupying. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
The search continues for Frank Pangilinan, an 85-year-old Eva Beach man last heard from about 3 weeks ago. Volunteers joined loved ones yesterday to canvass areas in town, including Mo'iliili and Old Stadium Park, after reports he was seen there. Pangilinan suffers from dementia, and for some reason, he removed a tracking device placed in his wallet by his family.
I don't know why my dad removed the tracking system that I installed in his wallet. Now we're like in blind looking for him.
Uncle Frank, we are all looking for you, and there's a lot of people that's not giving up.
Now, understandably, they are increasingly growing concerned with each passing day. The last confirmed sighting of Pangilinan was in Kapolei. His car was found there at the Home Depot parking lot on May 15th. He was wearing a teal t-shirt, khaki shorts, and a camouflage baseball hat. Call Crime Stoppers with any information.
The Honolulu Police Department is short 390 officers, and that represents about 20% of its entire force. Hawaii News Now investigative reporter Allison Blair has more on the potential consequences and how HPD is trying to compensate.
The Honolulu Police Department is authorized to have 2,177 sworn officers. But as of May 1st, the department confirmed 390 of those positions were vacant. That means the department is understaffed nearly 20%. In an email, HPD said the shortage has not affected police services. A spokesperson added it's primarily being addressed through the use of overtime. But not everyone agrees. Retired HPD Deputy Chief John McCarthy.
The numbers are starting to get concerning. The more vacancies you have, the more that impact is felt by the community. And crooks, they know this. They see that areas are short. They know that, areas aren't going to be covered.
There's a list of reasons why the workforce is dwindling. Many are choosing to retire. For others, it comes down to money. They're leaving the island to become police officers in jurisdictions that pay more on the mainland.
A lot of them move up to the Pacific Northwest. A few of them have gone to Nevada.
While some are quitting the profession entirely. Meanwhile, classes at the training academy are relatively empty. Right now, there are just 91 recruits.
The numbers are striking and getting worse. That's only 25% of the authorized pool there.
In an effort to attract new hires, the department says it's considering implementing a 3-day work week for patrol districts and possible alternate work schedules for sworn and civilian positions. HPD says it's also reviewing incentives being offered by other law enforcement agencies. McCarthy says real action needs to be taken, and fast.
Each and every vacancy impacts the community somehow.
The staffing shortage isn't just an HPD issue. Recruiting and retention are two problems plaguing police departments nationwide. Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
Well, the opening of the rail line is approaching, but some are wondering why the tracks suddenly stop in the middle of a field out in Kapolei. The line ends just makai of the East Kapolei rail station, and that's about 3/4 of a mile from Kamakana-Ali'i. The popular shopping center wasn't there when the first rail columns went up many years ago, but now residents want the line to connect to the mall.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense to wait for a bus, but at the same time, it's a long walk here in Ewa, Kapolei, midsummer. You know, you're not going to want to make that walk.
We do need to extend it, but right now with our expected funding, we have to concentrate on finishing segments 2 and 3 first.
While it could eventually connect to the mall, that possibility is a long ways away. Segment 1 from East Kapolei to Aloha Stadium starts service on June 30th. An extension to Kaka'ako is about a decade away.
A Honolulu-bound flight from San Francisco was forced to stay grounded after an engine apparently malfunctioned during takeoff. A United Airlines passenger on a flight yesterday says a loud bang was heard as the plane was speeding up on the ground, and black smoke was then seen coming from an engine. The pilot announced that an engine had blown. United says the aircraft is being inspected. Passengers were then rebooked on another flight later that day.
2 coconut rhinoceros beetles have turned up on Kauai. It's the first time the invasive insect has been detected outside of Oahu. The state says a crew from the Kauai Invasive Species Committee found a live beetle last Wednesday in a trap next to the Lihue airport. 2 days later, they found a dead beetle in another trap. A team from Oahu will head to Kauai this week with dogs and more traps and fumigation equipment. Those beetles feed on emerging palm fronds and can kill the trees. If you see one, you're asked to report it to the state's pest hotline at 808-643-PEST.
Ford is recalling thousands of hybrids for a second time. It all comes after its first recall failed to address a fire hazard. This round includes 125,000 of the most recent years of Escapes, Mavericks, and Corsairs. Their gas engines can leak oil or vapors, and those can catch fire when they come into contact with hot parts of the compartment. The vehicles are hybrids or hybrid plug-ins, so people could keep driving with a failed engine. Ford says it received 28 reports of such fires. 5 are from after it recalled mainly the same vehicles for the same reason last year. You can check if your VIN number is included in this or any other recalls on the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration website.
We want to get to some news just into our newsroom now. Some sad news from our friends. The NOAA Fisheries, they announced that monk seal RQ-76, also known as Malama, was most likely intentionally killed due to blunt force trauma. Now, this happened a few months ago, but they recently got back some additional tests and results, and they did say that this was a intentional act, killing this adorable monk seal, as you see some video here. They are offering up to $5,000 for information that leads to the successful prosecution of whoever is responsible for the death of this monk seal. Some heartbreaking news there.
Absolutely awful.
Yeah, let's go ahead and give you guys a live look now. This is Pool Vaina, or Punch Bowl as it is known. Beautiful day here on Oahu. Let's go ahead and give you a look at your island weather with Guy Hoggy.
The mostly dry conditions continue with the light winds, and that means there's a chance for some spotty afternoon showers, although they don't show up much on the futurecast. We are expecting stronger trade-ins coming on Friday. And when that happens, there's a higher chance for overnight and early morning showers, mainly for windward areas. Looks like Thursday might be especially damp in the morning. But the point is that with these stronger winds at that time, the rain's going to come in and leave very quickly, resulting in very minimal rainfall totals. So we're in for more of this. Really beautiful stuff out there. Today, tomorrow, and on Thursday, the winds will run slow. And that means morning sunshine, afternoon clouds, and a few spotty afternoon showers, slightly higher humidity levels as well. And then that changes around, and we've got windier conditions from Friday into the early part of next week. Those winds will be running at breezy levels, 15 to 20 miles an hour. Not that strong, but you'll definitely notice the difference with lower humidity levels. And again, there's going to be a few more wind windward and Mauka showers in the early morning and overnight hours. We're still not talking about a lot of rain. So look at that, my friends. That's a long stretch of the best weather on the planet.
And another reminder that we are now in the midst of hurricane season, and we want you to be prepared. Be sure to catch our First Alert Hurricane Season 2023 special tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. on KHNL and at 6:30 p.m. on KGMB and K5.
All right, here's what the internet is talking about today. So today marks the 79th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. In France, a ceremony honored the American soldiers buried in Normandy and the ones listed on the wall of the missing. Now, Kansas Senator Jerry Morin reflected on what the military personnel who served accomplished and how they inspire people to this very day.
It is my hope that people from every nation can show the same resolve, the same stalwart defiance, any place tyranny seeks to gain foothold. Courage, ingenuity, tenacity, sacrifice.
Morin was joined by other high-ranking officials, including the Secretary of Defense and the ambassador to France.
A young woman with a movement disorder and her father are traveling hundreds of miles on foot from Massachusetts to Canada, and it's all for a good cause.
Yeah, as Adrian Pastor reports, they hope to inspire others with their journey.
We've all heard that walking 10,000 steps a day can benefit our health, but for this family of power walkers, an average of 30,000 steps a day means spreading a message that goes beyond borders.
We do this primarily because we like it and we enjoy it, and if we can help an organization along the way, we do that.
Walking along Route 7 in Leicester, Emma and Dan Parentino are a week into their annual journey, tracking their miles through New England on their way to the northern border.
The goal is to get to 15 or 16. Some days we don't make it. Anywhere from 12 to 16 miles a day.
At just 8 days old, Emma suffered a cerebral hemorrhage, and it was unclear if she would live. She was later diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Now at 24, this marks her 7th annual walk, raising awareness for notable causes and organizations while inspiring conversations about inclusion and fitness.
As we've gone through her journey with her, we try to look at things through the lens of how can she do it? How can she do it? And this is how she can get out and see Vermont.
Donations from this year's walk will go to the Voices for Independence Fitness Program, a nonprofit organization in Pennsylvania dedicated to serving children and adults with disabilities while building relationships along the way.
We love guest walkers, so if you see us, pull over, say hello. We have all day. We're never in a hurry to get our miles done. Pull over, say hello, meet Emma.
The duo was on track to make it to Canada this weekend, walking along Route 7 all the way to the border. Emma and Dan plan to take in the scenery, meet locals, and make an impact 1 mile at a time.
All right, so Starbucks locations, more of them, will soon have the new controversial olive oil infused coffee drinks. That's right. So the product launched in March to somewhat negative reviews. The combination of oil and coffee reportedly caused digestion problems for some people.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so it's called the Oleato menu, and it offers an oat milk latte and a toffee nut iced shaken espresso. Each of it has a spoonful of olive oil plus a cold brew with olive oil infused cold foam. You know what though? The Italians, they live a long time, so maybe it's good for you.
What's your go-to Starbucks drink, Ash?
Chai latte or a matcha latte. I can't do a lot of caffeine, so.
See, I barely go to Starbucks. I enjoy, when I do, it's usually like the non-coffee ones, like a tea or a vanilla frap or a strawberry one. But I don't go all that much, maybe twice a year at most.
I go at the airport. And only at the airport.
So
I don't get
extra
Starbucks.
Expensive.
Yes. I don't know what it is about airports that makes me want Starbucks.
We're going to end today with another live look out at Pool Waina, Punch Bowl, a beautiful day. The mountains are a little bit dry there. Hopefully some rain comes through real soon. Have a great day, everyone.